All right, getting back to the tension in the Middle East, President Trump has already said strikes against Iran are possible. And it seems even more likely this morning with Ambassador Mike Huckabee encouraging Americans to leave Israel.
Peter Harris is a U.S. foreign policy expert at Colorado State University. He's joining us here to talk more about this. So, Peter, we've seen tensions escalating now for weeks. Some of our viewers may not be as familiar with what's happening. So can you talk about why the U.S. is considering strikes right now?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So, I mean, the background to this is obviously 8 months ago, last summer, the United States and Israel bombed Iran's nuclear facilities. And the stated purpose of those airstrikes was to eradicate Iran's nuclear program. At the time, we were assured that that mission was a success and that Iran's nuclear program had been obliterated. Well, it now turns out that that might not have been the case, because we're here again considering airstrikes and military intervention to once again take that nuclear program offline. The other context is that earlier this year, there were massive protests against the Iranian regime in Tehran and other big cities all across Iran. And President Trump said at the time that help was on the way, that he would send assistance to aid those protesters who were trying to topple the Iranian regime. And he didn't. He didn't send that help. Here we are now with the Armada finally assembled with those two goals. One, to support those who oppose the regime, and two, to take out the nuclear program.
And Peter, we know that the president has a lot of power, but does Trump actually have the authority solely to launch the strikes? What would you say?
According to the Constitution, no. When the framers of the U.S. Constitution authored that document, they gave the power to declare war to the Congress. There's not much of a gray area there. The Congress has the power to declare war. The commander-in-chief does have the power to authorize military strikes in self-defense, but there's no suggestion that Iran poses an imminent threat to the United States, so that justification would not hold. No, he does not have the constitutional authority to launch a war, but in recent decades, I think it's fair to say that presidents from both parties have disregarded the Constitution and have launched wars of choice.
Tensions with the U.S. and Iran, nothing new. I mean, this has gone on for decades. Can you talk about, though, the significance of the timing right now with all this going on this week?
This is really different from what we've seen in the past. When the United States attacked Iran last summer, Iran retaliated with a fairly symbolic attack on U.S. forces in Qatar. They telegraphed that they were going to do that ahead of time so that no U.S. service personnel were killed. This time will be different. This will be different than the Venezuela raid from a few months ago. If the United States attacks Iran, I think we should expect that Iran will fight back with everything that it's got. There are tens of thousands of U.S. forces in the Persian Gulf, in Kuwait, in Bahrain, in Qatar, the UAE, on ships in the Persian Gulf and Mediterranean, and thousands of missiles and rockets will be headed their way if the United States starts this war. This is like nothing we've seen since 2003, the war in Iraq. This is very serious. This is different to other military engagements the U.S. has waged in recent years. This is different.
Okay, so you're saying this is different. So I just want to clarify, is this situation that we're seeing play out similar to anything that we have seen happen historically?
Well, historically, yes. I mean, the United States has fought major wars before. The 2003 invasion of Iraq would be one case. The intervention in Kosovo in 1999 would be another. But what makes this different, I think, is Iran will assume, once the U.S. bombs and rockets start falling on Iranian cities, Iran will assume that this is a war of regime change, that America wants to displace the regime and replace it with something else. So it's about survival for them, and they'll fight back with everything that they have. And we haven't had that war with Iran before. We've had minor tit-for-tat escalations. We've never had an all-out war with Iran. I hope that doesn't happen. I really hope that we can avoid an escalation on that scale. But I fear that's what we will get if this war is triggered. Iran will fight back with everything it's got, and tens of thousands of U.S. service personnel in the region will be targets.
Again, Pete Harris is a U.S. foreign policy expert with Colorado State University. Pete, we really appreciate you carving out 5 minutes of your time to join us on this topic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.